Good afternoon, everyone. We'll just wait for a few seconds for this informative, interactive webinar that we have set for you for today in digital marketing assessment, what's working, what's not, and what's next. This is some general housekeeping items. This is a recorded webinar. All participants will be receiving today's presentation, the recording, along with additional tidbits that our presenter, Emily, will be providing for everyone. This is a good opportunity to introduce yourself, what type of business you have, what industry, what social media, what digital marketing tools are you using, as today's conversation will be able to enhance, provide you some homework. So afterwards, you'll be able to meet with Emily, with a business consultants to assist you to create those strategies. So a brief description of today's webinar. If you have any questions, strongly encourage you to put them in the Q&A. And throughout today's presentation, I'll be moderating those questions on your behalf. Then secondly, if there is one particular area that you need some additional assistance, by all means, put in the chat. I'll be able to answer those questions, chime in for Emily, but also give you additional tools from today's presentation. So a brief description of the Florida SBDC at FIU. We're a federal resource partner of the SBA to provide no-cost consulting to all entrepreneurs here located here in Miami-Dade and Monroe County. So if you're looking to meet with Emily or additional other consultants, by all means, I'll put our contact information, so we'd be more than happy to assist you in that regard. We have 18 specialized consultants, as which Emily is one of our digital marketing consultants. But if you're looking for access to capital, now that you have already implemented your growth strategy, now you're growing, you need some funding opportunities, government contracting assistance, operations, and strategy. I am more than happy to connect you with your respected consultants as well. So without further ado, allow me to introduce you to Emily De Armas. She is our digital marketing consultant here at the Florida SBDC at FIU. And by all means, this is more of a conversation versus a presentation. So I will also be providing in the chat, if I can, the link or the document that I sent everyone today of your assessment, so that throughout today's presentation, you'll be able to plug and play and fill in the blanks as well. So without further ado, Emily De Armas, she'll be presenting today's webinar.
Everyone, I'm going to go ahead and share. I think I have to send a little request to share, but
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So today we are going to be walking through the assessment that Jesus sent to you all. This is intended to be more interactive. So if you are, having questions or you're not sure what something means, please by all means let us know. So what we're going to do is walk through our presentation. I'm gonna go ahead and get into presentation mode. And can you guys just let me know if you can see?
You're good.
Okay, great. Wonderful. So today what we're going to be covering is why your marketing is not working and what to fix, because sometimes we think that we have to fix everything and we're not diagnosing the problem correctly. And so this is going to help you kind of figure that out, but also it's a good assessment to keep in mind as you're growing the business, as you're doing different things on digital, to just remember, because there's so much out there and so many details. And so this is easier for you to just keep track of everything. So, as Jesus mentioned, the SBDC is a no-cost consulting for our business owners. It opened in January 2014. We're now also in Monroe County. Some of the consulting areas are startup assistance, access to capital, international trade and development, marketing, where I sit, government contracting. So there's a lot of different things that you can benefit from with the SBDC. So if you need help in any of these areas, you can get connected to somebody who will do that, right? These are some of the results that we've achieved, really helping businesses grow in the Florida area. Here are some of our consultants. We were Center of the Year in 2023. And the goal is to really help you and your business as part of the economy, as part of the small business community. So, today, specifically, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the assessment. So, we're going to have time for you to actually fill it out. I don't want you to look at it later. I want you to actually look at it now and do it now while you're here. We're going to identify what might be holding your business back, specifically in regards to digital. You're going to get a view of what's working and what's not. You're going to use this as a way to evaluate your business across the key areas of digital marketing. And I want you to focus on one area. So as we're going to go through it, you might realize, oh no, I need to do this and this and this and this, and you might start getting overwhelmed. The feeling sometimes that we have in marketing is like, well, I have to fix this all right now, right? And we want to avoid that because if you start changing a bunch of things, you start doing a bunch of things, it becomes harder to recognize what is actually working and what isn't. So I want you to walk away from this meeting with just one thing to focus on next. Okay. And then we're going to talk about some practical steps that you can actually implement because the document is very nitty-gritty, hands-on. A little bit about me. I am Miami-based. I'm a marketing strategist and a creative. I formerly was with NBC Universal and Telemundo. I've worked with brands like Coca-Cola, AT&T, Ulta, Volkswagen, Samsung. I was Emmy nominated for news-related social media coverage. And I worked for a time as a direct response copywriter. So, writing all the words that you see in the advertising. Walmart was one of my clients. I work as a marketing consultant with the SBDC, and I've been here for a few years now. I am, in my free time, a poet. I'm very active in the Miami arts community, and I'm also really into guided meditations and visualizations. So, just a little bit about me. All right, let's talk about digital. So, digital is often the first time that somebody comes across you. Unless, you have a brick and mortar and somebody happens to just be walking by, most of the time people are going to find out about you online. So your presence online is what is going to give a person a sense of trust, credibility, and conversion. What do I mean by conversion? Conversion means that they become a client. So they go from just being a random person to somebody who actually exchanges money for whatever you provide as a business owner. You do not have to be everywhere. I know there are a lot of online gurus that are like, oh, you got to post on all the platforms and do all the things. You don't have to. Every business is different. And the answer in marketing, no matter what your question is always, it depends. So no matter what question you ask me today, the answer is probably going to start well with it depends because we have to consider your specific business, your business model, what your goals are. And that means that you don't have to be everywhere. The advice that you get from one person is not necessarily going to work for you, even if it works for another business. If your digital foundations are weak, meaning, you might have a great product or service, but if your digital presence is kind of meh, if you don't have some of the elements that we're going to talk about today, that means that you could be losing opportunities. And now more than ever, AI search, the reviews and the content that we're surfacing, when you go to Google, for example, you don't see the search results immediately now. You see the little AI blurb. All of that is influencing how people make buying decisions before a customer even reaches you. So we have to consider that in today's day and age. So there's 7 areas we're going to look at. We're going to look at your website, social media, Google My Business, email marketing, online ads, content marketing, reviews, and testimonials. You do not need all 7, but you need the right ones specifically for your business. So, how I want you to use this worksheet is I don't want you to overthink it. I want you to go with your gut. It's just a yes or no. Okay. If it doesn't apply to you, it doesn't apply to you. So just leave it blank. And by the end, you'll figure out where it is that you want to focus on. So we're going to start with website. Your website is theoretically your conversion engine. So I like to think of the website as your digital home base. So everything points here. It should explain what you do, who you help, and what to do next. So if somebody lands on your website, they should understand what does this business do? Who does this business work with? And then what am I supposed to do next, right? Do I browse? Do I book a call? Do I look for more information? What do you want me to do? A good website doesn't just exist. It helps somebody who's visiting that website go from being a lead to becoming a customer. And in 2026, your website also needs to be structured so that Google and those AI blurbs that I mentioned can read the website and showcase it. Now, like I said in the beginning, you don't need a website, right? Not every business needs a website. So if you don't have one, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But if you do have one and it does work for your business, it needs to be doing its job. So here's a reality check. If somebody lands on your site, let's assume you have one, and if somebody lands on there right now, can they immediately understand your business? If not, if it's confusing, if it's not really clear, you're going to lose them, right? So what I want you to do right now is to look at your document and go over the questions in the website section. And I'm going to just give you a few moments to do that. Again, yes or no, I'm doing it, I'm not doing it. If you don't have a website or you don't think that you need one, doesn't necessarily apply to you, okay? Dr. Dale, the website is the document was sent to your email that you used to register for this webinar. So Jesus sent it just a little bit before. Oh,
And
and
I also put it in the chat as well, so you could definitely download the document as well.
it's
It's in
right
the
there
chat.
too.
Yep.
It's magic. All right. I'm going to give you a few more moments just to get that and look at it. And if you're not sure what we're looking at, I'm going to show you a one moment here because I want you guys all to. So this is the document that we're talking about. So this is the section right here. Little check boxes, yes, no. Check the ones where it applies. If it doesn't, you can just skip it. Just so everyone is clear, a CTA is a call to action. That means you're telling them what to do. Buy now, click here, download this. Alrighty. Can you see we're back on the presentation, right, for everybody?
Yes, you're good.
Yes? Okay, great. Wonderful. Alrighty. So we're going to move on to social media. Social media is where you create visibility and trust. So social media will help people discover you and get familiar with your brand. It will build trust before somebody ever contacts you. Short form video right now is really big. So is personality driven content. There's a lot of what we call AI slop out there on the internet right now, right? It's content that is clearly created with AI, and people are kind of sick of it. So if you are somebody who wants to use social media and you are finding to reach people, one of the ways that I think you can do that the most effectively right now is to put yourself in that content as much as possible, because that's going to give you an advantage over companies that are using stock images. It's not a real human, right? People are very weary these days of like, is this even real? Is this even a real business, or is this just some kind of like AI thing, right? um Again, same thing that we're mentioning. You don't need to be everywhere. That doesn't mean you need to be on every single platform. You just need to be where your audience is. So I've had businesses that I work with who are trying to reach like B2B, right? They're trying to work with other businesses, or they're trying to reach professionals, but they're spending a lot of their energy on TikTok or on Instagram. That might not be the most effective way to go about it. You have to really think about where your audience is, and then you can figure out which platform to be on. So, reality check with social media. If somebody stumbles on your profile right now, do they understand what you do? Are you building trust? Are you just posting to post for the sake of staying active? We want to make sure that we are creating value for people, but also that we're creating a sense of this is who I am, this is what I offer, and you're actively telling people that. I come across a lot of clients
who are posting on social media but are not really selling on social media. And right now we need to be selling on social media. Because if people aren't aware of what you have for offer, they're not going to connect those dots on their own. So go ahead and scroll down to the social media section of the document. I'll pull it up here so that everybody sees. We are on number 2 here, social media presence. Okay. So just go through this. Again, yes or no questions. Don't think about it too much. Um, and answer them to the best of your ability. If you have questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'm going to check here and see. Okay, great. All right, let's move to our next one. Our next one is Google My Business. So this one's a little bit tricky um, because Google has changed some things recently. But if you are a local business and you have a physical location, you want to make sure that you are on Google My Business. Um, this is a very powerful tool for you because if most people will Google something before they, a restaurant, for example, or a store before they go and visit it. And so this is a great first impression. When somebody is searching your business, they're going to look here before anywhere else. And what they see on here is going to impact whether they decide to call you, visit you, keep looking for another option. So the reviews and the photos, that all is really important here. And Google will prioritize an active and a complete profile, meaning you filled out all the sections, you're keeping it up to date, that you're encouraging reviews. So it's not like the most recent reviews from 5 years ago. And this is a fun fact for you. 97% of consumers search online for a local business. And 80%, 88% of mobile searches for local businesses result in a call or a visit within 24 hours. Why? Because if I'm out and about and I'm hungry and I'm like, you know what, I have a craving for Chinese food, I'm going to Google Chinese food near me, right? Or Chinese food. And if it comes up on Google My Business and I see the different options, that's going to influence where I decide to go, right? And so that's why if I'm searching something on my mobile device, on my phone, I'm most likely going to show up in that place within 24 hours. Now, I said this was tricky. The reason I say it's tricky is because if you are a fully online business, you do not qualify for a Google My Business page anymore. This is something that Google changed last year. So, for example, if you don't have a physical location, that's okay. If you are a service-based business like a plumber, or you physically go to somebody's house to do a service, then what you can do is apply as a service area business. But if that doesn't qualify, if you're fully e-commerce, for example, or you're a service-based business that primarily just works online, you don't actually go to somebody's house, you are not going to be able to qualify for a Google My Business page, which is fine. There are other ways that we can promote your business, but I've had some fully remote online businesses run into this issue where they used to have a page and now they're not allowed to because they don't have a physical location or they don't qualify as a service area business. So reality check. If somebody searches your business today, does your profile build trust instantly? I use Azúcar as an example, mainly because I like ice cream, but there are tons of photos. I know this is a very popular place, so maybe it's a bit of an outlier, but there are tons of photos on there. You can see the reviews on there. They keep it updated. They have all the appropriate links. So that's important. So let's move on now to the Google Business Profile section. I'm curious how many of you have like a fully online digital business, if you want to share in the chat, because this might not apply to you. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we will not spend much time here. Yeah, the pop-ups are not unless you can prove that you're actively going to certain areas and certain zip codes, maybe you can get around with it. Okay, I guess you're able to in that sense, but um, they do tend to crack down. All right, good to know. We have a lot of different businesses in the room. All right, let's move on to our next area, email marketing. So email marketing is your owned audience. I say owned because if you're posting on social media, you don't own that audience, right? Facebook owns that audience. Meta owns that audience. TikTok owns that audience technically, right? So email is interesting because it will give you direct access to your audience. There's not an algorithm involved in it. It helps you to create a relationship with a lead. It helps you to stay top of mind. And if you manage to do this correctly, it is one of the highest ROI channels when you're looking at all the different channels. Um, Social reach is less reliable. You, as a business, I'm sure we've all experienced where you have a business account and it's just not getting shown to as many people as if you had a personal profile, right? And the platforms on social media do that on purpose because they want you to pay. They want you to pay for ads, they want you to pay to boost. They limit your exposure because they want you to have to pay for that exposure. Email marketing doesn't do that, right? So email marketing, the average ROI is for every 36 dollars. Um, sorry, I'm saying this wrong. You receive $36 for every $1 spent, right? So it is a very cost-effective channel. And the way that I suggest that you work on this is that as you're growing the business, you make sure you're capturing people's emails and you add them to a list. Even if that list is just an Excel file that lives on your computer, you want to make sure that you are keeping track of the people that you've worked with, the people that you've come across, right? They obviously have to consent and give you their email. They have to opt in. That's very important. But we want to make sure that you are leveraging email marketing if it is appropriate for your business. And if you are, the reality check is this. If somebody's interested in your business today, do you have a way to follow up? So if somebody has bought from you before, do you have a way to follow up with them? Or is it like, I saw you one time and then never again, right? You want to be able to keep in touch with your customers. So go ahead and review your email marketing section and take some time to do that. I will pull that one up since that one might be more relevant for this group. So right here. And again, it depends on what stage you're at. You might not need an email right this second. But even if it's just a newsletter you send out once a quarter, just to keep people in the loop of what you're doing, it can be beneficial for you. All right. Let me just check out what's going on in the chat. Great. Okay. So let's move to our next area because I want to leave time for people to ask questions. Online ads. So this is your paid growth path, basically. Once you have an offer or service product that you know is working and you know is you have a proven track record for that. Okay, people actually like this, people want this. Ads can help you get in front of your ideal client faster. Ads take a bit of time to start working. I find that a lot of small businesses think like, oh, I'm just gonna, do some ads and like I'll get business, and they get burned, right? Because it's online ads is a thing where you have to really know your audience very well. You have to know what works with that audience well in order for you to get the most out of it. And sometimes people start too soon, they end up spending money, they're like, this doesn't work, and then they never want to do it again. But if you do have a very strong offer, right? Meaning whatever it is that you're selling, if you know that that's strong and you know that people want it and you know that people have bought it before and you know how to talk to those people. What is it that's interesting to them about your service? Why did they choose to buy it? Then you have the beginnings of the information you need for good ads. Um, the results are going to come from testing, not just spending money, and you want to be careful how you go about it because the ad that you think might work might not. This is definitely more, I would say, of an advanced kind of a play. You can try to just boost posts and do things like that, and that might help you grow audience, but that's not necessarily going to help you get clients. Sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't. And in 2026, especially, the creative and the messaging matter just as much as targeting. Before, the targeting mattered a little bit more. Targeting meaning like I'm looking for moms that are, of a certain age range that live in this area. Before you could kind of get by with that, but now, if you think about all the different things that we're constantly seeing on social media, most of us see an ad and we're like, oh, nobody wants an ad, right? Even the people who work in the ads, like, I don't want an ad either. Sometimes it's annoying. So you got to try to make that creative and that messaging really appeal to your target audience in a way that will get them to pay attention and say, oh, well, actually, I do want this, or this is interesting to me. So reality check with the ads is are your ads part of a strategy or are you just randomly boosting posts? Because that's not an ad strategy. So if you do have ads, go ahead and look at your online ads section. I'll give you just another moment to look at that. All right, we're going to move to our next one. All righty, content marketing. So this is where you build long-term visibility. Content is what helps people find you through search, and it will build authority. So that includes things like blogs, videos, YouTube, making guides, basically where you put your thoughts, your expertise, whatever that is, into information that you give out onto the internet or content. It doesn't have to be fully information based. It's really powerful for a business that needs to educate customers. I don't know about you, but I'm sure you've come across this before. Let's say you have a plumbing problem or there's something going on in your house and you Google like, how do I fix, whatever leak under the sink? And you'll see like a lot of the articles that pop up, or a lot of the videos that pop up are from a plumber. They're from somebody who has a website that is posting this information to help educate, right? Or if you have something that you're selling that is not just very cut and dry that people understand immediately, you might need to educate people a little bit more. Today, content is also important because it feeds the AI search results and the recommendations.
Yeah. And Emily, and I just have two questions because it's going to piggyback from the email marketing and the content marketing.
Yes.
In regards to the emails, how can we mitigate against being marked as spam or junk?
Yeah. So the best thing to do with that is to pay attention to the language that you're using in the email. You can Google this. There are certain words that will trigger the filters. So if you're talking about sales, if you're talking about money, discounts, things like that, if that's like your first email, there's certain language in it that can potentially get you marked as spam. You want to make sure also that as much as possible, the email sounds like it's coming from a human. You don't need to do fancy templates. You can if you want, but sometimes the more templated the email, so like the fancier it is in terms of layout, will also trigger the search terms to say like, oh, well, this is just spam and we're just going to put you there.
Or even being too link heavy as well.
Yes. If you have a lot of links in there, that will get people that will raise the alarm. So I'm not gonna lie, email marketing has changed a little bit. The way that the inboxes, especially on Gmail, are managed right now, it's a little harder to break through that. So you want to make sure also that the people that you are interacting with ideally really want that email, right? Like you're not, because I get added to emails all the time and I'm like, what is this? I never signed up for this. And that's the quickest way for you to make somebody upset, annoy them. And then they're like, oh, whatever. So you want to make sure also that you're trying to get responses when you send the emails. Meaning, like if you ask a question or something like that, if you make it more conversational, somebody replies, then automatically that inbox, no matter what the provider is going to say, oh, okay, this person actually wants this email. Um, so those
And
are some things.
then this is gonna be like the small segue with the content marketing. How can we prepare for ads on open AI platforms for local presence?
Mhm. I would say to try to make your content as AI friendly as possible right now. So what I mean by that is we used to talk a lot about search engine optimization. Now we're talking about what they call GEO, which is like just generative optimization. So one thing that I would recommend right now is you can go into whatever AI tool like Claude or ChatGPT or whatever and ask it about your business. And leave it kind of open ended. What can you tell me about this business, right? And put your business name located in Miami, Florida, or whatever the case may be, and then see what it tells you. And if it doesn't have good information about you, then that's a start, right? That will help you understand, oh, okay, this thing doesn't really know me. You can even ask about yourself as an individual and see what it tells you if you're the face of your business. Um, and you can start creating content from that. Ask it like, how would you suggest that I um, change my content, or what content would you suggest that I create so that I do show up in these results? And then as far as the ads go that we're going to start seeing inside of OpenAI, we don't know yet exactly what that's going to look like or how that's
Yeah.
going to work. I would imagine it's going to be kind of like the beginning of Facebook ads, where it's like the wild, wild west at first. So it is an opportunity for you to play around with it. It might actually be something that's worthwhile for you, but I would do the prep work now and ask AI. It's exactly like, how do you suggest that I prep for this for my specific business, and see what it tells you, because I don't know yet exactly what those ads are going to look like, how they're going to interact. If it's, we know on Facebook what they look like, they're usually images and videos because that's what we see on Facebook, right? It's images and videos. I don't know if they're going to be little pop-ups like, what is the design? Those are questions that are not entirely clear just yet. Um, as they become more clear, the goal with that, I think, is to try to make sure that AI knows you first and foremost, and then we have to look at the business model. We have to evaluate, you know, um, is this worth it for me to pursue? And those are questions that we'll have to answer when we get to that stage.
And I think this will be one of your bullet point based on the content marketing of the blogging, but
Mhm.
building authority and especially how to educate. It's I'm in the federal space. Most of my audience is in LinkedIn. How can I
Mhm.
leverage LinkedIn or other professional networks to build relationships without coming off too salesy?
Yeah, I would first and foremost think of LinkedIn as like an alternative blog, if you will, because you can write articles on there. And sometimes the articles pick up and people share them. So think about using the article feature inside of LinkedIn. And also, if you're comfortable, again, because everybody's over the AI slop, especially on LinkedIn, it's very obvious when people are using LinkedIn to write their posts on AI, and people are just over it. So as much as you possibly can, put yourself in the videos, even if it's just like, oh, this is the kind of stuff that I do, this is what I work on. Creating an introduction video for yourself on LinkedIn, like, hi, I'm so and so, this is the type of work I do, these are the kinds of clients that I work with. um, Creating that kind of content is going to go farther than kind of some of the typical stuff that we see. But I would definitely also on LinkedIn, ask questions, comment and be thoughtful in your comment. If you come across somebody who could be a potential client for you, following them, commenting on their stuff, that's a way to create a relationship without it seeming too salesy or scammy.
Yeah, like a perfect example, like I like to do the LinkedIn 100 workout, which is participate in 100 groups, comment, have 100% profile, but then at the
Hmm.
same time, have 100 connections, but you become the subject matter expert, and that's how you build credibility within that space that you would like to connect with those professionals.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, and then the second round of questions, it'll be later on. So
Okay.
Emily, we can continue.
All right, I'll continue. Alrighty, so the reality check for content marketing is if somebody is researching your industry, like Jesus just mentioned, becoming a subject matter expert, are you showing up at all? Right? And I'm really glad you asked that question about AI because I think that that's a perfect question to ask AI. Just like I had a client do that, like, what do you know about this business? And it got some things wrong and it had a different perception than what he was expecting, and that helped him realize, oh, okay, I'm clearly not presenting myself in this way that I want to be perceived. So I need to work on that. So go ahead and look at your content marketing section, and then we will move on to the last one. We'll do this quickly because we have, I think, one more section left. All right. So reviews and testimonials. This is so important and so underrated. Reviews are one of the biggest factor in whether somebody chooses you, right? It builds trust before a conversation with you even happens. Strong reviews can be like your entire marketing strategy, pretty much, depending on what it is that you're doing. They should be visible everywhere, right? So if you have a website, posting reviews on your website. If you have Google, making sure that those reviews are good and that you're encouraging people to write reviews. Um, Social media as well, right? Highlighting, oh, I got this great testimonial. That's another great content type for LinkedIn. By the way, too, is taking something that you've done for a client and turning it into a case study. And you can put that in an article format. You can share it with your audience. You can use it as a way to create credibility, right? 73% of consumers trust a business more if it has positive reviews, and 49% need to see at least a 4-star rating before they choose to engage, right? So a lot of people, the metric is like, oh, if it's under 4 stars, I'm not really sure about it. The reality check for this one, if somebody is on the fence, would your reviews help win them over? So we'll take a few moments to do the last section. Reviews are something that I feel, no matter how small you are or established, the reviews are really the bread and butter because people will trust other people, and they want to hear from other people and their experiences. All righty. So I don't know, Jesus, if you want to do some more questions here before we kind of get into this next section.
Okay,
Let's,
I think I have one.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, so pretty much you can also, I think it's more of a comment that you
Mm.
can also get a .com domain, which has a higher open rates as well.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely, definitely.
and then no, that's it. And everyone has been appreciative with the advices. So
Oh.
thank you.
All righty. So let's move on. Good. Glad to hear that. Okay, so how are you going to make this digital assessment useful? First of all, I'm going to remind you, you don't have to fix everything. You just want to focus on one area that's going to move your business forward. So we're gonna do some examples now to kind of help you figure out where your biggest opportunity might be. And I am going to encourage you, if this is interesting to you or you're thinking you want more specialized help, definitely sign up for the consulting, because that's where we can really dig in and look at your specific business, your situation, and you can get more specialized help. So, for example, let's say that you are struggling with leads, meaning you just don't have enough people that are interested in what it is that you're working on. For that, I would suggest that you focus on visibility channels, right? So that might be Google My Business, if that applies to you. That might be social media, so getting more active on LinkedIn. That might be ads, maybe. But for the most part, it's how can I be more visible? How can I show people more of what it is that I'm doing? How can I help them understand the benefits for them, right? How can I show them like this is something that they need and something that is for them? If you're not getting any reviews, you can focus on customer service and loyalty programs. So making sure that you're thinking about, okay, when would it be a good time to ask for somebody for a review? If you're a service-based business, for example, making sure that that's part of your process, right? After you complete whatever the service is and the client is now satisfied, they're happy, making sure you're sending them, even if it's just an email, asking them for a review. Hey, could you send me some information on this, right? I have a testimonial template that I like to use that helps to get a better review from somebody. um, I I went to a restaurant recently. I know this isn't digital, but I feel like they would not let me leave until I put a Google review, and they were actually really nice about it. They gave us a bunch of free stuff, free things. They were like, "Oh, can you please?" They came around with like a QR code. Can you please write a review, or on our last Instagram post, can you write a comment? And they had a ton of reviews, and that place was packed. So you want to make sure that you're asking for the reviews, that you're making sure that you're prompting people. If you are getting traffic, meaning people are going to your website, but nobody is buying, then that means there's something you can fix within the website and the messaging. What are the words you're using on that message? Remember when we talked about websites, is it obvious to somebody what it is you do, who you work with, and what ultimately the results are? If they're not, then that might be a clue. And if you don't have repeat customers and your business model is for repeat customers, you might want to focus on email and on retention. You might want to send them a survey, maybe people you've worked with in the past, and try to understand what they liked, what they didn't like. That will help you refine and move forward. You don't have to do everything. You just need to do the right things well. And something else that I want you to think about is the fact that marketing is a planned thing. Marketing isn't something that you just do sometimes and you don't do other times. It's something that unfortunately you have to do all the time. You don't have to go crazy, but you do have to create a system where, okay, you're always marketing yourself to an extent. So you have to kind of think about things methodically. For example, you need to think about, okay, what is actually going to help me get to what my goals are? So what I like to do with clients is we look at, okay, where is it that you want to go, and how do we work backwards from that? Because sometimes what happens is that we invest in tools that we don't need before we have the fundamentals. A perfect example, like I was working with a client that had had some success. She had been on local TV, these kind of local news channels promoting her products and things like that. She had some repeat business, and things were not as things weren't growing the way that she wanted them to. She wanted more business ultimately. And she kept thinking like, I just have to rebrand, I have to, my logo, my colors, I have to. And I looked at her stuff and I was like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with your logos and with your colors. You just need to sell. You need to change the content so that you're selling it more. That's it. Right. And so sometimes what we think is a problem is not actually the problem. Sometimes I have clients that are like, oh, I'm gonna invest in the ads, or I'm going to invest in like a CRM, right? Customer, like a management software. Well, you don't have any customers. You don't need that. You know, we don't need to do that. You don't need to have all the fancy tools before you're ready. We just need to have the right things in place that are going to help you ultimately. We need to think strategy first, then we can think the fancy shiny things. And clarity is always going to get you more than complexity. Offering more things, making it more complicated. No, simple is better because our brains are very lazy. Our brains like to be very efficient. So what happens if you confuse somebody? That's an immediate no, right? Nobody is going to sit there and take the time to understand and break it down. And so if you're confusing, that's going to cause you to run into issues. And you might not know you're confusing, but I can help you figure that out. So let's say you are a new venture, just to give you some ideas, right? If you are a new venture, I want you to focus on being findable and credible before you start scaling anything. So your goal is really to establish online presence and to start building awareness. That means you work on a website if that applies to you. You work on, having a professional email address, and you just work on sales, right? You work your network, you tell your friends and family, you start getting business. That's the first thing, right? I know a lot of people feel like, well, but I need the website so I can approach people. No, you don't. That's who, you can start small. You can start with what you have and then eventually get the website, eventually do the other stuff. But the goal is just to make sure that you have something that people want to buy first and foremost before you start paying for a website. If you are a business and you already have some customers and clients, I want you to figure out what is working and what is not. So at this stage, your goal is to grow in terms of visibility, to gain new clients, but also make improvements. What has worked for you in the past? How are you able to get clients and business? Great. We can look at that information and that might give us some direction. If you have a website at this stage, you could focus more on SEO. If you have social media, making sure that you're showing testimonials and things like that. With email marketing, making sure that you have workflow set up, meaning you have maybe a welcome email series, or if you have a certain product that you're launching or service that you're launching, you write some emails about it. You set all those things up. And again, we focus on reviews at this stage a lot because that helps people see it and then become more interested. If you are brick and mortar and you're also trying to leverage digital, you want to really focus on local. So local visibility is absolutely everything here. Your goal is to drive foot traffic, or even if you sell online, but you're more specialized in a local area, you want to make sure people are aware. So Google My Business, maybe focusing on online ads, like Google Ads specifically, making sure you're really on top of social media, maybe Yelp, right? These are other things that we can look at if you are a brick and mortar and you want to still maintain a digital presence, which I would recommend. If you're online only, purely, I know we have some online only people on this call, your entire customer journey happens online. What does that mean? You don't have a physical location. So I'm not just going to happen to be walking past and be like, oh, what's that? Your goal is to replicate that experience online, right? So I have to come across your content. Your content essentially becomes like your storefront, right? So your goal is to really think about digital first, and that creates a solid foundation for you. So you want to think about, what content am I putting out there? How am I creating expertise? How am I letting people know what I do? You want to think about email marketing, social media, the website, all these different touch points. That's important. And one thing that I will say about content and also social media is that it feels like nothing's happening for a long time until something does. For a long time, it feels like nobody cares, nobody's listening, nobody's on the other end, but you have to continue to show up. You have to continue to broadcast, right? Like if you were a show on TV, the show is happening at 2:00 every day, whether or not somebody's watching it or not, the show's still being broadcast. So you have to kind of think about it like that. You have to be present, because eventually, if you're doing this correctly, somebody will think, oh, hey, yeah, isn't there that guy that posted about that thing? Oh, let me go check it out. And that might, be how you get a client. Maybe they've never interacted with you before, but you continuing to be present is going to help you. If you are service-based, trust and credibility is really important. Your goal is to really lean into expertise and building that credibility. So your customer review is really important. Again, with the content marketing, your website, like showing people the before and after. Somebody came to work with me. This was their situation before. This is what we did after. Everybody loves that glow up story. We've been, thinking about that since the dawn of time. Like, oh, this is my problem and now there's a solution. You have to show that with your case studies, with your articles, with videos, for example. It doesn't matter how you do it, just make sure that you're doing it. If you are a product business, let's say you're doing e-commerce, something like that, you have to create demand and you have to make it easy for people to buy. Because if there's friction, remember, our brains are lazy. If we're confused or we're like, oh, where am I supposed to click? How do I check out? A lot of people are like, I forget this, right? People are impatient. So you want to make sure that you're showcasing the product. You want to make sure that you're driving sales and you want to make sure it's really simple. So whatever the process is for somebody to buy from you, making sure that it is as smooth as possible. And you also want to focus again on reviews, especially if it's something online fully, because I can't go look at the product in a store. I have to rely on the photography, on the reviews, on what people are telling me about it. Videos might be helpful. It depends on what you sell, but you want to make sure people can understand what it is so that when they do buy it and they receive it, they don't feel disappointed or like, this is not what I was expecting. Your marketing is never done. I'm sorry. It's always a process. It's always a thing, but it's a process where you can test and you can learn and you can improve. And the ones that grow, the businesses that grow are the ones that stay consistent. It's like with anything else, you go to the gym once, that's not going to really help you, right? You're not suddenly healthy. You have to continue. It's a daily habit. It is annoying because chances are you're running everything else in your business too. But again, you don't have to do everything of those 7 things that we reviewed today. You just have to do the ones that matter specifically for your business and focus on those things because you do have limited time. And that will help you. That will help you to grow and to understand what it is that works and what doesn't. So we will go to questions. I'm going to go back to this meme because I think it's funny.
Okay, so I have a comment. Sometimes, based on the Google reviews, Emily,
Uh-huh.
sometimes corporates won't leave a Google review because they have to use their personal emails. How can we fix this?
Okay. There are other review websites. If you're having issues getting them to do the review on Google, you can borrow that tactic from that restaurant. I mean, they just said, oh, can you just, write a comment on the latest Instagram post, right? You can ask for reviews to be sent to you and you can put them on your website. That's another option. You can post them on social media. You can make a carousel of reviews, for example, for Instagram, or you could post a review that you got on LinkedIn and then write something about it, just make a post about it. There are other ways to get around it. I know some people are hesitant because of the email thing. In that case, it's also like a question of volume, because if not everybody's going to want to do it, you have to make sure that you're asking everybody and you're asking repeatedly so that you have a higher chance of getting more, right? Rather than less. And some people are going to say no, but that's okay. Some people will say yes.
Then, in doing so, everyone is going to be receiving today's presentation, the recording, along with the additional assessment. So, like that, you got the homework before Emily gave it to you. So, this will definitely enhance the conversation with Emily, with the overall strategy and growth, so that you're able to meet with our other consultants. Okay. So Emily, so I just have two comments. Okay, no, perfect. Actually, one, how can we get more responses with your email marketing campaigns?
Okay. So that's one where I'm going to say it depends. The first place that I would look is your subject line, because if you think about it, that's the first thing I'm going to see. So I would review you should always be looking at your subject lines and looking at what the open rates were, because that over time might give you some information. So for example, you might realize, oh, well, when I structure the headline as a question, more people open it, right? Or if I tell them something random in the subject line, maybe more people open it. So the first thing I would do is look at the subject line. Is it interesting? Are you creating curiosity? Are you creating the desire for somebody to open that email? Because if your subject line is boring or your subject line is not standing out in their inbox, then they're never going to get to the rest of it, right? So that would be the first thing. And then I would look at what your goal is with the email campaign, right? And then we work backwards. If you want them to click on a specific link, or if you want them to do something, how can we move them to that decision? But that's something that we could look at together.
Yep. And then I also put in a poll so that definitely we get to know more about your overall experience, how we can improve, how we can better, how we can continue offering this particular webinar as well. So it's a good opportunity so because we want to hear from you. We're practicing what we're preaching. We want to get to hear how to market our services, just like how you're marketing your services to the ideal customers. So it's mutually beneficial on both sides. I just have a question. What would be the best tactic for Yelp? So many reviews are rejected their algorithm.
Interesting. I would want more info about the why the reviews are rejected. If that's something that's happening on the Yelp side, or like if Yelp is thinking that they're fake or something like that. I would need to dig into that a little bit. But um, I would say for Yelp, it's important to make sure that person is verified. I think that's one of the issues with Yelp is that I'm trying to verify like if this is real, as far as a review goes. But we could look at that specifically and see what's going on.
And then in terms of where do we send the assessment? No, the assessment has been sent to you. So then afterwards, that's when we could have a conversation. So I could make the assignment for Emily to work with you to go more in depth of your business needs. So I will be putting the link to register to meet with Emily. So like that, I'll be able to expedite the process as well. And then in doing so, we're talking about reviews. I also put a link. So if you're interested to leave a Google review, by all means, I strongly encourage you to do so. If not, that's not a problem, but it's any way how we can continue assisting you. And then to meet with our consultants along with Emily, I put in the chat the link so that we'll be able to connect you with your business needs. And then let me see, I do have some additional questions. Okay, Emily, where is the best place to get a domain?
Ooh, okay. I mean, you have many options. I would say GoDaddy is just the classic kind of standard that people use. It depends also kind of what you need on the back end as far as a domain, like what platform you're going to use, because sometimes the platform will include the domain. So I've had clients that use Wix, and then sometimes if you upgrade on Wix, you have the backend platform, and then they'll get you a domain. I don't always recommend you do that. I think it's better for you to get your domain from one provider and then have your website platform be another one. Because if you ever want to switch your website platform and it's tied, your URL is essentially tied to that platform, it just makes things a little complicated in the future. But there are different options. I mean, to me, the standard is GoDaddy. They offer pretty decent pricing. You can usually do like multiple years at a time, but that's not the only one that's available. There's Bluehost. You could upgrade one from WordPress if you wanted to, Wix. So there are other options available.
Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, we have already answered all the questions. So I want to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. Being a lookout with our additional webinars that we have to assist you with your business needs. But like I said, we serve as strangers. We're gonna leave as family. So any way I can to assist you with your business, let me know. I'm more than happy to do so. And then Emily, you got a great kudos on the presentation.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you
Yeah,
guys
so
enjoyed.
yes. And then yes, that is the link for above to meet with Emily. But if you're already an existing client of the SBDC, you don't have to resubmit the link. So just shoot me an email, and I'll be more than happy to make that referral as well. So I already put my email in the chat, so like that we could discuss afterwards, and we'll get everything squared away for you. So once again, I want to thank you, Emily. I want to thank everyone that is here present today, and have a wonderful afternoon. And we'll be talking soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.